and welcome to Ladies and Edelman Fantasy Football League. This is the first time we are doing the Fantasy Football League as me, the Brady Bunch, aka the Commissioner. And first off, I'd like to thank you very much for everyone showing up to the draft on time, and a special thank you to our players out there in LA and Boston. But let's get down to business and talk why we're really here. The 2016 Draft Rundown! Alright, first we're going to take a look at Mama Said Gronk You Out. Looks like it's going to be a long season for Mama Said Gronk You Out. Off to a sluggish start, Mama Said Gronk You Out wound up with the fewest points projected in the league during the first half of the draft, but redeemed himself by drafting the strongest roster in the second half of the draft. The highlight of his draft appears to be his number one pick, DeAndre Hopkins, who is only one of 3 wide receivers to get at least 190 targets last year. This season for Mama Said Gronk You Out appears to be a coin flip, and Yahoo Fantasy is projecting that your season will end up with only 4 wins. Don't be surprised if this season turns into a shelf turd IPA and something else besides that football gets Gronk. Alright, next up we have Chuck's Unreal Team. Despite some early steals, Chuck's Unreal Team is a team others will want to play. Chuck's saving grace was choosing the number 1 tight end in NFL history, Rob Gronkowski, in the first, and securing the Messiah of the North, Aaron Rodgers, in the 3rd round. But as time will show, he will most likely need to work on his running game. Yahoo Fantasy predicts that Chuck's Unreal Team will finish 10th this season with a record of 1-14. Looks like you won't be able to Jabberwocky your way out of this one. Alright, next up we have Luya Luck. Luya Luck started her draft game strong by nabbing one of the most talked about wide receivers, Odell Beckham Jr., in round 1. Odell is ranked 9th in the league and projected to put up some serious points this season. Taking a gamble with DeMarco Murray in round 2, Luya Luck decided to go with her gut and may have plucked a secret weapon for PPR leagues with Julian Edelman in round 3. Overall, Yahoo Fantasy reports that Luya Luck ended up with one of the bottom groups of running backs in the league and will have to do some serious work in week 9 as 5 players will be on bye that week. Coming soon to a league near you, look out for Luya Luck. Alright, and next up we have Robert Touch Downey Jr. Although he had to wait till the 9th round to make his move, he may just have the players to get him to the playoffs. By grabbing Ezekiel Elliott in the 1st and Russell Wilson in the 2nd, you better make sure to have your best players when you face Mr. Downey Jr. With an average of 7.6 years of NFL experience, Robert Touch Downey Jr. is the team most likely to have a player become a grandpa. Looks like you may need to trade that fork in for a bedpan and some prune juice. Alright, followed up by a Manning down. Besides Killer Clowns, Boobas, and Hockey Mask Mama Boys, a Manning Downs Week 9 is the scariest thing that league members will see all year. With 6 players who have the most projected fantasy points on bye that week, a Manning Down will need to make some trades and keep his eyes on the waiver wire. All things aside, a Manning Down did assemble a team of fantasy MVPs last season. 4 of his players were among the top 20 players that were on the most championship rosters across all fantasy leagues. Seriously though, if you're looking for a wide receiver, I do know a team by the name of the Brady Bunch that might have some talent sitting on the bench, and you could trade him for, I don't know, maybe the backup quarterback he might have. He's suspended for 4 games, I don't know. Just let me know. Okay, and next up we have Peter Pan's Lost Boys. Peter Pan's Lost Boys should use week 10 to consider the great mysteries of life, like why there's only one word for thesaurus. They have 3 players with the most projected fantasy points on bye that week. Looking at the entire season though, Lost Boys has one of the toughest schedules ahead. But hang in there, you do have the number 2 in the entire draft, and Julio Jones is the only NFL player to see 200 targets last season, and Ben Roethlisberger is a fantasy dream. If this even gets too tough, you can always give Ruth B a call and have her friend Peter fly you away to Neverland. Okay, and next up we have the Bunch and Bunch. Led by a terrific group of running backs, the Bunch and Bunch is a team to keep an eye on. The Bunch and Bunch figures to be in the mix for a playoff spot all season, taking the 7th overall draft slot and turning it into a solid team that's expected to go 10-5. Loaded up with pass-catching weapons early on, Bunchen was also able to put together the best groups of RBs in the league by adding Adrian Peterson, Lamar Miller, and Matt Forte to the roster. It appears that Bunchin's only weakness will be if he forgets to set up his lineup while he's too busy tanning in California. And next up we have the Brady Bunch. Coming in strong with his first pick, the Brady Bunch nabbed the #1 ranking running back with David Johnson. If David Johnson received a nickel for every time he's projected to touch the ball this season, he would have 313 nickels. The Brady Bunch's weakest pick was probably drafting LeGarrette Blount in round 7 as his 66th pick, despite being an average pick at 117. The Brady Bunch will try to stake his claim early as he plays the strongest team in week 1. But seriously, don't be surprised if the Brady Bunch accidentally hits the restart button once your team starts to get more points in the final seconds. You'll never know. And next up, we have Dean's dad. Looks like someone did their draft homework. Led by a quality group of RBs, Dean's dad is loaded with talent and dominated the draft that led to a season projection of 12-3. They used a conservative plan early to fill out their lineup, selecting QB Cam Newton and RBs Todd Gurley and LaShawn McCoy. By drafting the youngest team in the NFL, with an average of just 4.2 years of NFL experience, Dean's dad has proven that he isn't afraid to rob the cradle. And finally, we have Lando, and Lando, look out. Looks like Lando did not waste his first pick and selected the top wide receiver in the league, Antonio Brown. Even with picking 6 high-risk picks and winding up with the fewest projected points in the league in the second half of the draft, Lando is still projected to finish first in the Ladies and Edelman League with 14-1. But just know this, come week 1, I'll be waiting. Seriously though, good luck, but it doesn't look like you'll need it. But all kidding aside, thank you guys for choosing Ladies and Edelman as your premier fantasy football league. I'd like to thank you all for joining. I can't wait to play you guys all this season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Let's make this a great season. Thanks.